useless talent. Comedy. No.
Too real. Hello and welcome to Cleopatra. I'm Christie Bana.
I'm Lynn Molly, and we are two Middle Eastern comedy queens on an expedition to dig up the funny from the first generation experience.
Our guest today is a podcaster, writer, comedian. He's the host of the Tough Choices podcast, and you can listen to it wherever podcasts are found. Please welcome Kazeem Rahman.
Hey.
I saw you counting your accolades.
Yeah, it's like podcaster, comedian, writer, right? Black guy. Let's just throw everything.
Kitchen
Let's
sink.
just put everything in the pot. Nigerian, Muslim, wears a hat. On podcasts sometimes. Enthusiast. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you for joining
me.
us.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm loving the clips.
Ooh, yay!
I haven't listened to the podcast, but I am loving the clips.
I am
no, that's fair.
In fairness, I'm in the middle of a move. So I'm moving from a 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom. So it's
all right.
like
Congratulations
it's like
moving on up.
big transition. So it's like, yeah, I didn't have time to actually listen to an episode, but I did watch a bunch of clips.
It does blow my mind when people listen to the pod before they're on it, because I have never once done that on anyone else's pod.
Oh, I do that.
And now I realize that's something I definitely should be doing.
Absolutely.
I think at least getting an understanding of, even if I don't listen to the episode, I'll always be like, okay, what are we talking about? Do I need to read anything before? Because I don't read everything that everyone else reads sometimes. So it's like, I want to know what's going on.
So as you know, this is a podcast about first generation / immigrant comedians and their experiences.
Yes.
Can you take us back? What do we need to know about Kazeem? Tell us about your family. Tell us about how we got from Nigeria to here.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. My parents came from Nigeria in about the early 80s, late 70s. My dad came first, stayed with, some family friends. There's a lot of Nigerians in Houston, right?
Okay.
A lot of them, whenever they migrated, there's really just main hubs are like New York, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta. Like there's some in Boston, some in LA, but mostly I would say the majority of Nigerians in the U.S. are probably in Houston.
Is there a reason for that, or it just
I don't know.
happened?
I think it just the weather. Like there's lots of colleges that are in Houston, so I think that it just it was like one of those things where one person came to Houston and was like, oh, where do I go? Well, just come to Houston, right? So more people just came, and then the community grew.
Right.
And then everyone just comes to Houston when they want to come here.
And what was their reason for leaving and or for arriving?
I think it's mostly the generic one, just a better life for themselves and their family, right? I think, weird story, my dad didn't tell me this till later. He got a scholarship from the company he was working for in Nigeria to come do engineering in Houston, but he was supposed to go back and he just never went back. So they paid for his school and he was just like, no, I'm not returning to this. I like it here.
And what was he doing? What was the job?
I think he was just working in a machine shop, and then he came here and got a industrial engineering degree.
Ding, ding, ding.
And
engineer market. We have immigrant bingo, and engineer is one of the spaces.
Really? Yeah, we had engineer. Did someone already say doctor?
Of course.
My dad was a doctor.
Nurse.
I think we may have had nurses, but not on our family.
We got some.
We've got French speaking. That's a common.
French speaking?
There's a lot of French speaking, non-native.
So when they came here, they just spoke French?
No, they spoke, my mom spoke Arabic, French, English. My mom speaks 7 languages.
7?
Yeah, she's far superior to myself.
And here you are with your 1.
With my 1.5. Okay.
Okay, you know what? I should have asked first. How many languages do you speak?
1.5.
1.5. And here you are with your 1.5.
Yes.
Still works, baby. Clip that up. No,
Don't point at our camera.
Yeah, exactly.
Only I get to point at the camera.
I'm sorry. I won't point anymore. But
guy who goes on podcast and directs it,
exactly. Click that up, baby.
live edits it. Can we go to camera 3? Thanks so much.
This is how we know he's been running a podcast.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
A successful podcast for 5 years.
I just turn on immediately, and then I'm like, oh, that's a clip. But Dad came first. Mom came, I would say, a year or 2 after. I think my mom was getting her master's when she had my middle brother, and then they had me, and then, yeah.
So you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest of 3 boys.
Right, me too, but not all boys. I was going to say I have a boy and a girl. I have an older brother and an older sister.
Oh, okay.
And Lynn has an older brother.
Yeah,
so.
there's been some talk that maybe the youngest sibling becomes the comedian on the podcast, but, I'd have to do a full survey. And
You're the youngest also?
Yeah.
Okay, of 2.
Yeah. I feel like the older sibling has to, do all the things right in order for us to just kind of, jickety joke around.
Yeah, maybe. But there has to be some older sibling. Chris Rock was an older sibling.
Well, I guess this podcast is over, and it's been...
Good night, everybody. No,
You name one exception,
yeah,
and
exactly.
we're like,
I'm so sorry.
let's get Malcolm Gladwell in here to talk about outliers, okay?
Also, is Chris Rock as successful as the 3 people sitting at this table? No.
There we go. Speak that into existence.
This is also why I think I'm going to be so short-lived, is I don't even have joking delusion. I can't even jokingly say something.
You gotta be delusional out here, right?
It's true.
It's just one of those things.
You know me. I was an attorney for many years, and it's the pragmatism, it's the credibility, it's the tethered to reality that has been how I lived my life for so long. And so that's been the hardest part about being a comedian for me.
Yeah, I have a couple friends that are comics that are also lawyers, and I think their main problem is understanding that there is no one-to-one to success sometimes, where it's like, I do this, then I get this, right? And when you're a lawyer, you do this, you get that, you do this, you get that. And then when you're a comic, it's like, I'm going to do this, and maybe I'm going to meet someone that will give me something that maybe lead to another opportunity that I won't get paid for. And then that opportunity in 3 years might bear a fruit that will also lead to another opportunity that I may or may not get paid for. Right. And that's comedy.
That is one of the most accurate descriptions I've ever heard of a stand-up comedy career.
Yeah. It's so dark.
Yeah.
but it's accurate.
Yeah. Right? It's not as a one-to-one with the law, but certainly I think the law is like kind of planting a garden and getting your fruits and vegetables, whereas comedy feels like you're scavenging in the woods and having to know like that berry's poisonous. Don't eat from that fucking tree.
I feel like most careers are, the harder you work, the more successful you get, or even the more talented you are, the more successful you get. But with stand-up, that's just, it's not the case. It's so many factors. It's luck, it's network, of course it's talent, and hard work, but it's so many things.
Yeah, but it's not like nepotism and luck doesn't exist in business and law and even medicine. There's always going to be not a straight meritocracy anywhere you go, but it is hard. But I am trying to be more delusional.
You gotta be. You gotta try. But like you said, like coming from like an immigrant household, you're not allowed to just be delusional, right? You kind of do have to have that rational.
The first delusion is believing I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you go to school in Houston?
I went to school in Houston. I went to school. I went to University of Texas at Austin for 2 semesters, and then I failed out. And then I went to U of H, graduated cum laude. Just wanted to put that out there. Okay. I will fail, but then I will graduate cum laude. Yeah, and then I started, comedy came out of like an urge to
pronounced
create.
Comedy
Cum
cum.
Comedy cum.
Sorry, so stupid.
Kumidi.
Kumidi.
Kumidi came from
Kumidi laude. Okay.
just an urge to create.
Cut that out.
No, leave
Live
it.
editing.
I like it.
One thing I do want to
We're
ask.
just battling who's gonna edit this podcast. Cut that out.
As if it's
Leave it
voice
in.
command.
Exactly.
Somebody still has to do this after we film this episode.
When you guys are chopping up the podcast, are you like, yes, chef?
Yes, exactly.
To an extent.
Yeah,
Low-key,
okay.
yes.
Good. Good. I like to hear it.
Kind of. Yes.
So we got a cum laude.
Yes.
Oh, I wanted to rewind and quickly ask your growing up experience, because this is something we talk about a lot. Did you have like a Nigerian community around you, or did you feel pretty isolated? Like, how diverse was your growing up experience?
It was pretty diverse.
Cool.
Right? We had a Nigerian community, but then I also went to like public school, right? But then we're Muslim, so we also went to like Sunday school. So I've just always been around a lot of different cultures of people, right? So Nigerians, the Nigerian community, right? Nigeria is mostly like 50% Muslim, 50% Christian, right? So I grew up with just a bunch of Nigerians, and then you went to public school. My public school really didn't have a lot of white people. It was really just Black, Asian, and Hispanic.
How cool.
So that's all from like first grade on up. It was just Black, Asian, Hispanic people. And then, you know, you'd go to the mosque, you'd go to like Sunday school and stuff, and you're just dealing with like Desis and Arabs and, you know, South Asians and East Asians and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that one white guy that converted.
And that one white guy that you're
course.
absolutely right. Well, no, did I know any white people that converted? No, I just knew Hispanic people.
Who
that
converted? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know any white people that converted. There's a big Mexican Muslim community in Houston.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty large.
Learn something new every day.
Okay, so what did you study out of curiosity?
Computer information systems.
Okay, what does that mean?
Think of it like, I don't know if you're like in business school, there's like this management information systems.
Okay,
or something like that. It's the same thing. Right?
Did you work in IT at any point? Did you use
I still
the
work in
degree?
IT.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's your day job.
That's my day job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do. And then started comedy.
How old were you when you started?
24.
Okay.
I was like 24 going on 25.
That seems like a perfect age because you're old enough to have some lived experiences, but still young enough to hustle to the late night mics.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I never thought about it that way.
So you've been in LA for how long?
Since 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. I did comedy 3 years in Houston, and then I was like,
You're
all
like,
right,
I'm ready
it's
for the
time
big
to go.
city.
Yeah, I felt like I had done everything
Cool.
I needed to do
Nice.
in Houston. Not that I wasn't like headlining, but I felt like I was like slowly reaching a ceiling. So in my opinion, I was like, all right, well, also I want to write for TV. So you can't just do that in Houston. So just packed up everything in my Honda Accord. Took me 2 days to drive here.
Wow, that's not that far, huh?
Yeah.
I guess that's great too. Also, I feel like a lot of your timing is so smart to leave like right before you get to headliner level, because I feel like some people come here headliner level and then they're very bitter about yeah. So it feels like you were at least had enough time to get established, get good, but without building up this expectation of what you deserve.
Yeah, it was perfect advice from one of my friends in Houston, Alan Adams, where I was talking to him about, I'm just thinking about leaving, right? And he said, okay, well, just know that if you are here and you start to feel like you're a really strong feature act, like a middle act, you've stayed too long.
Did you face a lot of culture shock when you got here?
In Houston, I was just like, what's funny? Boom. Let's just write what's funny. And then let's be unique and write what's funny. And then that's it. Now it's like, okay, what's funny to me? What's funny to me? What's something I can talk about? What's something I can talk about for a long period of time? And then I try to write on those things.
Have you noticed the audiences are different? Is that part of the reason?
Yeah, audiences are different, right? You can get away with some stuff in Texas, of course, right? You can say things, you can be mean, right? You don't have to necessarily, sometimes the punchline can just be a curse word. in Texas, right? It's just the way that it is, you know? And then when you move to LA, it's like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. You have to kind of tailor your jokes. But I don't think I ever really changed a joke. I think I really just adapted it to the audience that I was in, right? And that's something I learned how to do in Los Angeles.
I always say that I change up my set for the East Side and the West Side. It's two different audiences. The East Side, you can do all your like esoteric, super hip, super nerdy literary references, and that does not fly at the clubs or like in Santa Monica. There, it's just like, I'm a wacky comic, and here's some jokes that you will like.
We're gonna pivot to some questions, if that's cool. Our first question, Cleopatra was the queen of luxury. What's one bougie thing that you do not mind spending money on, or something you won't skimp on?
That's a good question too. I wouldn't say there's like a specific item, but I will spend money on food without hesitation. It's very rare that I'll look at a price tag when I want to buy something food related. That's not gonna. I'm one of those people that are in the grocery store and I just naturally go through all the aisles.
I do that too, yeah.
Just to see what's going on, and I'll grab something if it looks cool enough. I've done that.
Okay, I love going to the grocery store, and a lot of my friends hate it, and they think it's this horrible chore, and I will go just if I have time.
I love
sometimes.
Yeah. Do they think it's like chaos? Is that
Yeah,
why?
I think it stresses them out, and I think it feels very much like a chore to them. But for me, that's like kind of one of the highlights of my week.
Yeah, it's a nice place. I like it. I like going to Ralph's. I like going to like Costco. I enjoy, right? So Costco.
I love Trader Joe's, as you know.
Trader Joe's, it's all right. Trader Joe's is. But you don't like Trader Joe's?
No, you said it's all right, meaning like you don't love Trader Joe's. I love Trader Joe's.
Okay, I will say this. I'll be fair. When I first found out about Trader Joe's, I assumed it was a like gourmet food store, but it's not. And then I started going. I still go.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not. It's just a regular. It's a nice grocery
It's
store.
so special.
The branding.
The branding.
Everything is Trader Joe's related. Everything is Trader Joe's brand. That's cool. The bananas are cheap.
But they also keep their eye on like food trends where you'll be like, oh, I heard about this. And then all of a sudden they'll have their own version of it, which is what I like about them too.
Like
and
what?
they're very innovative.
give me
Okay,
one
they have
example.
like a gluten-free seeded cracker that is very similar to a different type of seeded cracker. Mary's Gone crackers, you know that one? All right, I'm going to cut this out as well. But
No, keep everything.
Yes, chef.
yeah, I mean, okay, well, good enough. But like, I don't know why. Something that I just side note about this podcast is we say a lot of brands, and it feels like a consumerism. Like
I think brands are part of life.
Brands are part of life,
We
you're
live
right.
in
Brands are part of
America.
life.
okay, I'm always like worried that we just drop too many brand names
don't worry
ever,
about it.
and then it just becomes
Eventually, those brands will reach out to you and be like, "Hey, we saw that you loved our crackers."
yes.
Were you mad when someone dropped Cleopatra on NPR? No. So I think Trader Joe's will be very happy with this.
Someone
Okay.
name dropped y'all on NPR.
Yeah,
Flex.
we did
Yeah.
get a nice
That's
little
dope.
shout out on an NPR
And I was
podcast.
like, I can't believe they didn't reach out to us. And then one of my friends was like, when has anyone ever shouted something out on a podcast and then called up the person they shouted out and been like, by the way,
Yeah, no one.
no one would ever
That's
do
true.
that.
Yeah.
Like, I will not at Mary's Gone Crackers.
Yeah, exactly. No.
I do have to ask, because we had a conversation about this on a previous episode. So for a while, Trader Joe's was doing like Trader Jose, and they had Trader Giotto's. What would be the Nigerian Trader?
What's Trader Jose?
Trader Jose was for their Mexican foods. They would call it Trader Jose's. And then they got in trouble because I guess
Yeah.
it was problematic, but we
Yeah.
stand by it.
So, what's like the most common name in Nigeria?
There isn't. There's so many. Because
There's no
Well, you
no
have to-
Joe or Brian or
Muhammad.
Jack.
exactly. Well, you have to also understand it's like
It will be tribal.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
There's so many different tribes that there isn't really a
Okay, so for you guys, it would be probably Muhammad because Muhammad's such a common name.
Muhammad is a common name in Nigeria. That is fair.
Okay,
but
another
it could
point.
be,
Trader
but
Moe's.
also I know a couple Tobys. I know a couple
Trader Toby's.
Yeah, it could be Trader Toby's, but I mean that would sound a little too racist, right?
Trader Kazeem's it is?
Yeah, Trader
Kazeem's.
Kazeem's. That would be it.
I love
Drop
that.
it.
Yeah, Trader Kazeem's.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I didn't know Trader Joe's. When did they get rid of all that?
Yeah,
Yeah, people hate
they
it.
stopped it about what, like 7 years ago.
But do you think it was like
okay.
white woke people who hated it? Because again, I would have loved
I'll have
Trader
to do my
Muhammad's.
research. I don't know what their Asian food was called. Trader Ming's,
Okay,
and I was like, I don't like this.
Why does that feel so
I
terrible?
like Trader Giotto's though.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a white woke thing.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like
It was definitely a white person's idea, for
Yeah.
sure. There was no, I don't know who had a problem with it though.
We don't know.
Probably everybody, but
We'll
that's
never
okay. We're problematic here as well. Okay, so food is the luxury.
Food is, I would say, is my luxury thing
Yeah.
that I'll spend on.
Is there a particular food item?
No, I don't have a particular anything. I like to try it all.
And do you
honestly.
cook?
Yeah,
So the best Nigerian food is at your house.
probably.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
What's
I
else?
don't. I'm not like the best chef when it comes to Nigerian food, but I could probably hold my own.
I bet you could.
Are there reservations on Open Table, Resi? How are we? Okay. He's like, you've already taken enough of my time.
Okay.
No, I don't. I mean, listen, I think that food is one of those things for me where it's like I just enjoy it, right? Where it's like I can switch on and off, where it's like if I'm working out, if I'm like trying to meal prep, then yes, I'm eating for like a specific thing. But if we're going out and we're trying a new restaurant, all right, I'm going to try a little bit of that, a little bit of that. Let's pack that to go, put that out, but we're going to probably just eat like, one of those lamb shanks or whatever, right? And then just we'll pack, we take a lot to go home.
I love that.
So,
Okay. Cleopatra viewed herself as a living goddess.
okay.
Was there ever a time that you felt supernatural, or do you feel as though you have a supernatural power or useless talent?
A useless talent. Comedy. No.
Too real.
I know. I'll just start crying on the podcast. I mean, I would say when I'm like really just having a really good set, when I'm in like a groove. You know what I mean? Like when you're just when you're just riding a wave and then you're like, all right, guys, good night.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's great. And they're like losing their minds, right? And then you leave and then, you calm down. But then after the show, some random person will come up and be like, oh man, I loved your set so much. You're so
Right.
funny.
It's such a good feeling
Alright,
when people
yeah.
find you after the show.
Yeah, exactly.
And
That's
they
a
like
good feeling.
repeat one of your jokes to you.
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah, that's good. Correctly, when they do it correctly, sometimes they like misquote. I'm like, that's not what I said. You're drunk, but that's fine.
Every now and then, somebody will really be paying attention, and it's so flattering. But 9 out of 10 times, somebody will just be like, "I loved your joke about," and it was the other curly-haired
It was
person who
Pallavi's
said
joke.
it. It was Lynn or Pallavi who said it.
Oh, that's funny.
I
Yeah.
literally was once at a show that Pallavi was on. I was just at it, and outside of the theater, someone came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, great set!" And I was like, "Thank you." You can follow me online, Pallavi Ganal.
Yeah, no, that'll happen to me sometimes, once or twice.
It's just gonna happen. On the facial recognition show, the door guy at the Comedy Store was like, "She's on the show," and I wasn't on the show. And I'm
Oh,
like, the
wow.
premise of the
That's
show
so funny.
is we are all not the same person.
But if we show up at the club on the day of facial rec, whether we're on it or not, they're like, "Yep, let her in."
Go for it. Yep.
I remember when Fizza made that meme, right? Because everyone kept confusing Zara for Pallavi,
Of course they did.
right?
Right.
And then Fizza just made it like, let me just create a quick
That's
guide
so funny.
for everybody. And then it just blew up and they were like, let's do a show.
That's so
And it
cool.
was, yeah. And then And then here we are.
I remember a white male comic told me he pitched them that he wanted to make a flyer for a fake show, and it was all white men, and on the flyer it says, "We are the same person." And I was like, that is pretty brilliant. Yeah.
That's funny.
One time me and Christie, a comic, came up to us and was like, "You two look like sisters." And we were like, "Yeah, because we're Arab." And then you could tell this person just like turned completely red in the face because they thought they like had offended us. And we're like, no, but it actually like makes sense.
Yeah, we mentioned it in a nice way. We were like, yeah, we're just both brown. And she was like, ugh. And boy, oh boy, do I regret saying it.
And you were like, no, it makes sense. It's fine. Because we do look like sisters.
Let them be offended. I'm fine with that.
Well, our next question is that Cleopatra obviously loved Egyptian customs and culture, even though she was not Egyptian. What do you think is something that is a Nigerian custom that you still hang on to, or what are some Nigerian superstitions? Alternatively, what's something super American or super LA that you do now that you didn't do?
I recycle like a lot. Like I purpose in Houston, no, we don't recycle. There's no recycling bin. There's no like recycle day. I think that's a new, but in LA, that's a big like thing.
Right.
I've heard in Seattle, your neighbors will get mad at you if you like recycle incorrectly. Like they'll go through your trash and like sort it.
Wait, they have different recycling?
Yeah,
Well,
like glass
yeah.
versus plastic versus paper versus cardboard and whatever. Yeah.
I thought it all just goes in the bin. They have different like containers for
They
each?
do in Europe, and I think some, maybe I would imagine San Francisco would have that. They're very eco-forward. LA is like the in-between.
I've heard that it's all just a scam so that people feel
too.
better about using plastic, unfortunately. I do know that like they recycle aluminum and glass, but plastic I think is just an absolute scam.
That's interesting. I don't know. I think that is one thing that's LA that I'll do. I would say for Nigerians, I don't think there's a specific thing. I will say that I realize that there's like little things that are like the mentality of someone whose parents are immigrants are different than someone whose parents are not. Where it's like, I'll use my move to an example where I'm moving into a new place and the landlord was like, yeah, we cleaned it for you. And then I was talking to my friend, I was like, I just realized that there's clean and then there's my mother's an immigrant clean.
Yeah.
In the sense of where you guys didn't clean this.
Right.
Where,
Mary Poppins with the white glove on the banister looking.
There are clear things that my mother would lose her mind over, and I'm currently losing my mind over. So like things like that, I would say.
Standards.
Yeah, there are standards that I have, right, that I hold on to, right? I would say a lot of times, and I don't know if this is like a pure Nigerian thing, but I do know a lot of immigrant cultures, maybe it's just Nigerian, but they preach success or like the perception of success, but they don't really preach excellence in the sense of be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an accountant, that's cool. No matter how you do it, just go do it. But if you tell them, yo, I want to be the best comedian, then it's like, well, why do you want to do that? Even though the best comedian makes way more money than the doctor or the lawyer, right? So because I'm chasing excellence in art, not necessarily success. And I don't know if that's like a Nigerian thing or if that's like just an immigrant mentality. Because I mean, I understand it because when my parents came here, their goal was to be able to provide for their family. Like that's the goal. You're okay, kids are okay, we're good, we have roof over our head, we can afford the food, cool. You can afford college, cool, right? And then now we're gone. Now my parents are like taking vacations and stuff like that. But here I am with my dreams. And they're like, what? You still have a job, right? And I'm like, yeah, I still have a job. But I will quit this job in a heartbeat just to go tell jokes.
It is so wild because I do feel like getting this idea to move to America is like, that's like a delusional, wild dream too.
Right. That's a major betting on yourself
Yeah.
thing. That's
And just as hard and scary as, pursuing an artistic field. So I feel like there should be like maybe more feelings of parallel, but I think they just want us so badly to be stable, because I think it's easy when you're coming from generational wealth to be like, oh, my kid can do whatever they want. But with them, I think deep down they know that they just cannot provide for us endlessly. So they want us to be able to provide for ourselves, which I'm currently doing a very bad job at.
Yeah, that's a perfect point though, where it's like they want stability, right? And the only way, and like you said, sometimes it's like the immigrant bingo. What are the stable markets? Lawyer, doctor, engineer, you're right, medical field, accounting, computer science. Those are the places where I know as a parent you will be okay. If you're a comedian, maybe you'll be able to be okay. Maybe you won't. Who knows, right? It's a marathon.
And now it is time for our final segment called Dig Deep. This is where we ask the deep questions. I'll go first. Cleopatra was famously portrayed by Liz Taylor in the 1963 film. If your life were a crossover of two films or TV shows, what would they be and who would play you?
Weirdly enough, it would be The Office and Martin.
Ooh.
Right? And then who would play me? I don't know if I want to get cocky. I was like...
Say it.
Probably like, weirdly enough, in a couple of years, probably like Jaden Smith or something like that.
Ooh.
And it'd be like, how dare you play him? He's still alive. But then they're like, oh no, but he's gonna like transform for the role or something like that. I don't know. Someone would play me that you wouldn't normally think would play someone like me, if that makes sense.
How so?
Right?
Because he's super avant-garde, or
Yeah,
because, okay.
like a super avant-garde. Like you wouldn't say that Jaden's gonna play this, Nigerian Muslim dude from Houston, Texas, right? You're gonna be like, oh, he's gonna play like an alien or something, ride a spaceship, or do another karate movie, right? So yeah, Office and Martin.
Who knows when your comedy career will take you to riding a spaceship,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That's the Space Jam sequel, actually, and it's just comedians and basketball in space. And I'm
That'd be
writing it
cool.
right now, and I'd love for you to be in it.
Can
He's like, it's a solid no.
can Jaden be in it also?
Yes,
There we
absolutely.
go.
It's
Then
a
you got
buddy
me.
script,
Then you got
yeah.
me.
Really, this is a total side note, but out of curiosity, did your parents, I'm assuming they're religious and practicing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were they concerned about the ethics or the profanity in comedy at all? Because my parents, or at least my mom, was for sure. And
I think yes and no. I think they were more concerned about, because I was still living with them when I started comedy, right? But then that was only because I was also like, I was a traveling IT consultant. So I was never in Houston. So when I was in Houston, I would get back at like 2 a.m., right? And I think they were worried about that, but they were worried about like, you're going to lose your job if you keep, messing up, right? But I always went to work. Like I always made it to work on time. I don't think they care about comedy that much to like worry yet, right? They've never seen me live.
Really?
Right? No,
How do you feel about that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Mine neither. I haven't worked up the courage for that. That's
I've never
pretty tough.
invited them also,
Okay.
right?
Fair.
Both my brothers have seen me live.
Okay.
Like everyone else in my family has seen me live, but my parents,
Interesting.
right? Yeah, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It'll happen sooner or later, right? But so far it hasn't happened.
That's a tough Band-Aid to rip off, for
It
sure.
is a tough Band-Aid to rip off to an extent, especially it's like, yeah, because I cuss a lot. So if you're asking me to just be, I'll invite them to a clean show first. And then they'll see the real me.
Right.
But yeah, no.
It's hard to perform when you know anyone in the audience who knows you very well.
Yes, it is kind of harder. It is a little harder. I had I used to be like a youth coordinator. And so I was doing a show in Oakland. And then one of my like students came with his wife and they sat in the front row. And I was like, all right, well, so much for my material that I
Right.
was going to do. I'm going to do some
That's happened to me
different
before,
material.
Me too. Absolutely.
Where I'm like, all right, you're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Can't be as honest as I was going to be.
So I don't think they're worried. No. Go ahead.
Everyone thinks that like you like really want your friends to be at shows, and I feel like I never want that unless I'm like really trying hard to fill a room. It makes me feel better to perform for strangers.
I would say it's great if you're here. I don't want them like in eyesight necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to ever text you, I don't know, are you going to do the same jokes again?
Ugh. Yeah.
Yes, I will be doing the same jokes again because I'm perfecting a 10-minute set and it just gets crisper every time I do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. My cousin told me that because we were in Houston and I had 3 shows back to back. But then after the fact, he was like, yeah, you keep doing the same jokes. And I was like, yeah, that's how it works. That's how you get better. Right? So yeah, normal people don't get this.
One of my actor friends, she loves coming to my shows. And I recently was like, you know, I get really nervous because I feel like you've seen the same jokes again and again. And she was like, I'm an actor. I just say the lines people give me. It makes perfect sense to me that you're just saying the lines again and again because she does theater and like a lot of Shakespeare. And she was like, no one expects me to change the script every night. Why would I expect you to? And I was like, okay, you can keep coming to shows forever. You get it.
Every single show.
Yeah.
She must be there.
So our second question is that Cleopatra had a fabulous legacy as being a leader, a scholar, a scientist. What would you like your legacy to be? And what would you like your epitaph to read?
I mean, artists who did comedy. Right?
I love
If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's more of my legacy is like he strived for perfection in the art of comedy. And that's what I want my legacy to be. Do I need to be like the richest comedian? No, right? I want to be the best. Everyone should want to be the best. But do I need to be the biggest star? No. I want to be the best artist that's doing comedy.
And how do you how do you define artist, I guess, is the more concise question.
In the sense of comedy? Well, I don't want to just use names, but it's like, think of it this way. Mark Normand is a very skilled comedian, right? It's set up, punchline. It's the same, like, you kind of know his style. But if you want to use, I'll use Anthony Jeselnik's last special, where the first half was his normal style, and then the second half, he just was telling stories. That is art, the ability to shift.
I love that. I always think of stand-up as an art, and some people tell me that they don't think of it as an art, and for whatever reason that makes me very sad. But I do see what you're saying, that there's just very different forms of it. I've been seeing a lot of specials that have been really cool, that have been, like, I think about Julio Torres's My Favorite Shapes. Like, what an incredible piece of art.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday that wasn't our podcast. Again, Lynn, I'm so sorry. I bring up other podcasts on this podcast, and Lynn tells me I'm cheating on us.
That's
but fine. Manipulation and motivation are two sides of the same coin, is what they say, and you have different ways to make people feel a certain way or to hit at what resonates with somebody. That's what art is, right?
Yeah.
Here lies Kazeem, master manipulator of feelings.
Slow clap.
There's your epitaph.
Master manipulator of feelings. That's good.
You make him sound so, like, devilish.
Yeah, it did sound a little devilish. I'll still give it the slow clap, though. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Those are great questions.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you being on this podcast. You are really kind. I've always really admired and respected you. And I also really appreciate right now you're doing this whole series on your social media about your 10 lessons from your 10 years in comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would say it's
which
like,
I like.
It's not just 10. It's just lessons from 10 years
Okay.
in comedy. I wrote down a bunch. I got tired of having to repeat myself to people, right? So there's just little things that I'm happy that I learned early, or I wish I would have known earlier, that I just want to share with people.
Of all of the ones you put out, was there one that was either the most popular or maybe the most controversial? Not controversial, but got the most conversation going? Or
I talked about comedy bookers being like unsung heroes,
oh,
right? And
yeah.
understanding that a booker is still human, right? And then that they're not just booking a show, they're booking a whole vibe, right? And sometimes you fit that vibe for their specific show, and sometimes you don't, and that's fine, right? If you don't, right? And then the next slide, I think, was I just told a story about one time when I was like 2 years in, and I was just talking to a comedy club owner, and I had just been sending my emails in, be like, yeah, send your emails anytime, you good, you're passed, blah blah blah. It's just Houston. And then I said, hey, you don't respond to my emails. And he looked at me and he was like, okay, well, why do you think you're even on a high priority? He was like, why do you think I don't have a life outside of this? Right? And then the last one really shook me in a way of me thinking how bookers think and thinking how humans think. And he literally said, even if I got your email, if I'm not booking that day, I'm not booking that day. Right? So just send another email. So,
I can't imagine booking at the level of club booking, and how people are always like, oh, the booker at the club doesn't like me. And it's like, no, that booker at the club is managing
a lot of egos.
Yes.
A lot of egos.
Yes.
But yeah, I would say that's the one thing that's very important that young comics would know.
That's a great
should know.
piece
Thank
of
you
advice.
so much.
Yeah.
For more tips, you can check Kazeem out on his social media. What is your social media? And we'll link to it in the show
Kazeem
notes.
Comedy, Kazeem. It'll be in the show notes. And my podcast, Tough Choice with Kazeem Rahman. I bring comics on and we discuss like moral dilemmas and like would you rather questions and stuff like that. So
Very cool.
it's a good time. 30 minutes.
I love a good
of fun.
hypothetical.
Yeah.
We cannot thank you enough for doing the show. That's been our episode. I've been Christy Bana.
I'm Lynn Molly.
I'm Kazeem Rahman.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.